My name is Gyinaye Poku. I'm a fish farmer, specifically a fish fingerling producer. I worked with the Fisheries Commission, then it was a Fisheries Department under the Ministry of Agric for 20 years. And I resigned from the ministry. For my last station was at Kunedumasi Pilot Aquaculture Center, where I was heading. And when I left, I also joined Nkrumah University and taught fisheries for almost 10 years as an adjunct lecturer. By then, I was doing that concurrently with my own farm. So finally, I also moved from the university to my farm, where I've worked up to now. In fact, I do produce tilapia. I only do catfish on request. Maybe if I get a contract, then I do catfish fingerlings. Other than that, I just work on tilapia fingerlings. I liaise with Akosombo ADEC. They supply me with the broodstock. And in fact, I've taken consignment from them just some few months ago. I'm yet to cross them. And for the fisheries, I should say, in fact, there are a lot of problems, especially with feeding and water. In fact, my place, water has been my problem. Initially, the place was secluded and the water was perfect, but now in fact, my whole area has been engulfed with settlements. So the water has become a challenge now. I'm just contemplating sinking a borehole, but that's also the finances has been the limitation. But obviously I have to do it because when I started, I had no disease problem. But later I could sometimes find some diseased fish. But the Fisheries Commission usually sent some officers to my site to bail me out whenever I had a problem with the diseases. But for some time now, about, let me say about a year now, I've been out of production because I was putting my place in order. Hopefully, maybe by Christmas time, I will be done and start full production again. My farm is at Abontem on the Lake Busuntri Road, Kumasi Busuntri Road. Lake Busuntri, I learned it's a meteoritic lake and it attracts a lot of visitors from outside. The lake has no outlets. It has a lot of inlets, and because the lake doesn't flow out, the Fisheries Commission, and for that matter, EPA, have been very cautious, warning people not to do, because at some point, people were trying to do some cage culture. And when they saw it's profitable, a lot of people were coming in. And I think they have stopped it now for fear of the pollution of the lake, because a lot of feed will go into it and there's no outlet. And obviously we can have a lot of challenges. And now it has more or less been turned as a tourist place. A lot of people go there, and that is one advantage I took to site my farm along that route, because ultimately I will turn my facility into a public aquarium so that I will just catch the people going to the lake where, to me, they have nothing to see. It's only the water there. But I only want to do African fishes. I mean, fishes that are peculiar to Ghana. And so people coming from outside will come and see the type of species that we have over here. So fortunately, we've been having a lot of a series of trainings with the Fisheries Commission regarding biosecurity. In fact, the setting of the farm and the precautions that I have to take, in fact, that has even maybe delayed my work a bit, because I want to do things in the right manner. But any time that they came there, the samples that they pick, if I'm somebody who takes care of the water, I always want to have clean water coming into my ponds. So the disease, normally I do normally have them when I transfer them, which I think is stress. So when that is relieved, and then they are okay. So I haven't had serious disease problem at my farm yet. But sometimes I do invite the officers, and sometimes they also come there on their own accord to take some samples, and they go and they will tell me their findings. So with the diseases, I haven't had much problem. And all the farmers that do also buy from me, my fingerlings, I've also not had any complaints from them. So it has been perfect. It's good. There are a lot of fish from the Volta Lake. They have some cold stores here, so they bring a lot of tilapia for sale. So obviously, any adverse effect on the lake also affects the fish situation in Ghana, especially with the tilapia. And some few years ago, when we had this problem on the Volta Lake with the cage culture people, in fact, it's affected the sale of tilapia in Kumasi and even the surrounding towns, because they all come here to buy from Volta Catch. But they have a big cold store in town, and anything happening on the Volta Lake also affects the fish supply in Kumasi as well. But now I always see the women busily taking fish from the cold store. So I think the problem has been solved now. Anyway, that one I'm not very much sure, but from what I see from the market, it seems it's gone down. For the disease on the lake, I don't know what caused it, but fortunately, all the guys who were working on the lake trying to look for the problems and how to solve them, they are experts in the fish health department. So, but for me personally, I don't know what caused the disease, but I think they were able to bring it under control. Anyway, the ADEC also have their cages on the Volta Lake, and that is where I get my broodstock. In fact, the last time they brought me broodstock is maybe about some not up to 2 months. I haven't even crossed them. The males and the females are separated now, and maybe hopefully next week I'll start working on them. I'll pair them. So my broodstock, I make sure it's always from ADEC, and when they are spent, I just sell the spent ones and request for more from them. For the Akosombo strain, or the ones that are being worked on by ADEC, I think there are a lot of hybrids of tilapia, because sometimes when I'm sorting out from my own ponds, you could clearly see, you don't need to be a geneticist to know that this is maybe a hybrid tilapia. And since they will be crossing themselves from other farms, and also transfer of stock from one farm to the other. There's a possibility. And I think there was some work done by the university, KNUST, and I think it proved that there are a lot of hybrids in the system, especially with the tilapia. But as for the catfish, it's all over because people bring a lot from Nigeria, from everywhere. For the catfish, sometimes the head will crack and blood will be oozing out. As for that one, I do have them, but I know it's mineral deficiency, normally from the food. So when I change the water and I change the feeding, it's corrected. So that one I see some. Sometimes too, I see some ulcerations on them, but normally I attribute to the water quality. And when that is changed or solved, the disease normally stops. So I don't have any massive fish kill concerning disease. For aquaculture in Ghana, to me, I always say that it's a very great potential that has not been tapped, because the counting of lands, water resources, we have more than we need. And it's an area where we cannot overproduce, because in every home in Ghana, fish is eaten. If not the small ones, it's a big one. When you compare it with, say, meat, which normally is eaten in the affluent homes, but for fish, so whoever wants to go into fish farming, it's a laudable idea. From where I came to where I am now, a lot of the problems are being solved, because I quite remember we worked from Ashanti region to Western Dunkwa, then to Bron and Hafu, Sunyani, and all the places. Those times they were all under Ashanti region before we had offices there. And sometimes we just harvested fish and we were just roaming in town with the bell ringing to sell. But now you are at your farm and people come there to buy the fish. At that time, there was no fish feed mill. So we were just collecting any feed at all, rice bran from the mill when they have dumped it somewhere. Then we were using it to feed our fish. Now, God being so good, we have a lot of fish feed mills in the country. And there's a very big one being built in Kumasi here, and one D1F, one district, one factory. Very big one indeed. So the problem is also being solved. Fingerling was a very big problem. And that one, ADEC, I could say they've also done a very good job, because I was saying that they brought me some broodstock from ADEC, and I was not the only farmer. They took it to all the regions. I think they took some to Sunyani and so many places. So for fingerling problems, it's being solved by ADEC. They want us to be suppliers of fingerling to the farmers in our vicinity. That's why they've chosen some farmers to work on this. For fish diseases, normally, when you don't have much concentration of farms, you would think that there's no problem with diseases. And this is what I'm seeing now. Fish disease, beside the water leak, when you come to the pond farming, it hasn't been much of a problem, because we don't have many ponds. But as aquaculture is growing and a lot of people are coming into aquaculture, it's now that we are going to encounter a lot of disease problem. But in fact, when I was teaching here at the university, I was encouraging my students that whoever wanted employment should go into fish diseases, because at that time we had only 2 offices, one for the southern sector and one for the northern sector. and they are on retirement now. So fortunately, maybe we have Dr. Ado and some few people coming to take over. So it's an area the government can also help train more fish health officers. And people should also be encouraged to take aquaculture as a business. I saw something in Egypt some years ago where they dig the whole ponds and distribute it to unemployed graduates. And they supply the feed. With the fish health, they had their center at the place. So they took care of all their needs. And the people were doing very, very well. So this is something maybe the government can take it over, encourage some youth to go into it, and we will solve our protein deficiency problem. I think it will help us.